Hi everyone, it's Rax with the Diablo 4 quarterly update, the thing that we're always waiting for. The best game ever is coming, Diablo 4. And we're going to go through the team playtest, stuff about blockout, the storytelling, the open world, the multiplayer, the items and progressions, and some other thoughts which are going to tell us what's coming up in the upcoming blog posts. So let's get started. The first topic is team playtest. So with many other games, they organize the Diablo 4's development around milestones. The first milestone, of course, was getting the Diablo 4 demo out in BlizzCon 19, which a lot of people really liked. The next milestone that they're working on is focusing on all the elements in the dry steps. The campaign, the open world, the itemization, the PvP subzone, the dungeons, and the cinematic. They had a team play the game from home over 2 full days and analyze data and discuss their reactions. One critical thing right here is, of course, they play the game all the time. One thing that I really don't like to hear about Diablo 3 is people always say things like, oh, Blizzard must never play their game. They have no idea what they're doing, yada, yada, yada. I don't like to hear that because it's just not true. Blizzard is well aware about their game and they play their game. And they're aware of the features of their game and what needs to be improved and what needs to be nerfed. I am never of the opinion that Blizzard is dumb. A lot of times I think what may hold them back is having the resources to get all the ideas that they have and all the feedback that they get implemented properly. So they are telling us here point blank that they play the game all the time. That they are playing through the first zone for 2 full days with their team, taking the data and discussing it. So I think this is very important for everybody to hear that Blizzard is paying attention to their game and wants to experience it for themselves. That way the experience for us when we get it will be great. So love to hear this. So the team's playing it together over multiple days. They're analyzing how the features will harmonize with each other. And they're chatting about the playtest and sharing screenshots with us, and they'll provide context for their future blog posts. So that's not the entirety of their progression. The other regions of the game are underway. The dry steps was just the first one that they tried to get a complete cohesive experience in. So it's cool to hear that they have maybe one region already complete and that they're already working on some of the other ones as well. The next topic that they cover is blockout, which is a pretty simple concept. They can make the game in its kind of rudimentary form with just blocks without adding all the art and the layers to it, so they can test it and see if it works. So here's an example of a blocked out area. And then of course later on then they can go apply all the artwork and the textures and make everything look beautiful in the game that we know. But for testing purposes they can test it in this form just to make sure everything works. So along those lines, here's another screenshot. This guy doesn't even look like he has arms. Then all of a sudden he has arms and the wings, stuff like that, and different weapons. Then down here, here's an example of a monster. Notice his skin is very plain and the colors not really there. And then all of a sudden they add them and the final product. So that's the concept of blockout, and it allows us to test stuff without getting the final product, which will hopefully save them some time. Next up is storytelling. So let's just read through this. A couple of things have evolved with how we deliver the story in Diablo 4. First, we have conversations. In D3, it has the UI panes with the character's name and portrait. It just kind of pops up, and then you hear the audio. We're experimenting with a mix of tool-generated and manually choreographed cameras to tackle conversations. For simple interactions with NPCs, we bring the camera in closer to characters while still maintaining an overall isometric feel, and use a library of animations to deliver the general gist of the conversations. For more complex conversations, we take a similar camera approach, but here the characters' movements and animations are more deliberately handcrafted. This lets us deliver story moments that are complex while keeping you in the world as much as possible. Here's a shot from one such interaction. So here's an interaction talking to this guy. Looks like we capture this demon and we're ripping his guts out. His guts are everywhere. I mean, the artwork here is absolutely amazing. It's going to be crazy in the game if he's actually like wiggling and trying to get around. You can see the evil nature of this game really coming through. And I think this is a big improvement from Diablo 3. The second storytelling method we are developing is a real-time cutscenes, or RTCs. We grab your camera and treat the storytelling more like a movie, so we're reserving this technique for the most important story moments. Having these be real-time has great advantages. We can show your character with your currently equipped armor as part of the scene, for example, but we can also display them at your current resolution and with your currently enabled graphics settings, so they end up feeling more seamless and like a part of the game. I mean, that sounds pretty amazing to me. We showed you some early work on the real-time in-game cinematics during the BlizzCon demo. Our cinematics and engine teams have made a lot of improvements since then. So this is a little bit crazy right here, this sentence, because in the ARPG industry, Diablo 3 is usually pretty well known for its graphics and its kind of fluid gameplay. And the people that I talked to that played the Diablo 4 demo at BlizzCon, they said that it felt amazing on the new engine and the way that everything was working. And now Blizzard is saying 7 months later, or 8 months later, that their cinematics and engine teams have made a lot of improvements since BlizzCon. I mean, if that's true, then it's sounding like Diablo 4 is going to be amazing in terms of its engine and in terms of its videos and cinematics. So I can't wait for that. We were excited to see a fully produced cinematic serve as the climax to the Dry Steppes experience, and the team was not disappointed. Here's a screen grab that the story and cinematics folks have given us as the go-ahead to share with you, as it shouldn't spoil the details. So here's a screenshot in one of the cinematics. You can see there's a ton of detail in these images. It's going to be amazing to see what this looks like. And this looks pretty terrifying, doesn't it? Jeez. So that is how the storytelling is moving along in Diablo 4. Now let's talk about the open world. So there was variability in the action. The average playthrough, a team member took several hours to complete the campaign content for the region, but those who focused only on the story finished in less than half the time, and then they could do the side content after. And we think that the ability to approach the game with a different mix of story and side content tailored to your own appetite will make playing and replaying the campaign more enjoyable than it has been in previous ARPGs. So there's a lot of important things here in this paragraph. So first of all, it sounds like you can just blast through the campaign if you want, and then do the side content after. Or a lot of team members, it sounds like, mixed and matched it as they were going through. So I think the ability to play the game how you want to play, whichever way you want to do it, is very advantageous. I know a lot of games, for example, I played the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I was talking with another one of my friends who was playing it. He was very frustrated because he wanted to 100% the game, but he had gotten to a point where going back to a previous quest was going to take him a ton of time to go back and do it. So he kind of lost that, and at that point gave up doing the full clear of the game. It sounds like in Diablo 4 they're making an effort to, you can do it whichever way you want, and that's going to be amazing. Another thing that I think is important is replaying the campaign more enjoyable than it has been in previous ARPGs. I have not done Diablo 3's campaign in like 5 years, and I've been playing the game since the beta. There's really no point to, right? It's just all blasting adventure mode. So if there is a higher replayability value, at least for me, there are some people that probably like to do the campaign over and over and over, and that's fine. But anything that they can do to add value to replaying it or making it more enjoyable is going to make me personally much more likely to do the campaign again. So this is an awesome, awesome idea. So this is a map of the Dry Steppes, and this is where everybody was walking, this heat map. So Blizzard is acquiring this data, with the game currently. Where is everybody going in their time played in this zone? You can see obviously tons of people are going here, if I'm reading this right, and tons of people are going here, with some here and here. And Blizzard, with this data, can direct where the game is going, right? Where do they want you to go? Do they want you to go everywhere on this map? Well, maybe we put an important quest over here or an important quest down here where not many people have gone. It's very cool to see this, and it's very cool that they're putting this amount of detail into their testing and in preparing the game for us to blast it. Now, this next part is the only thing that had me a little bit hesitant, and it could be just because I don't understand it. While we have many open world activities like crafting events and world PvP and side quests, the most popular open world feature was camps. These are locations of importance that have been overrun by enemies, which, once cleansed, turned into friendly outposts with NPCs with a waypoint location. There's a backstory to each one. For example, one of the camps, the zone, was a town afflicted by a curse that turned everyone into a pile of salt. Another was a crypt haunted by a spirit that possesses the bodies of various undead, jumping from skeleton to skeleton until you defeat them. That's very cool, and that's fine. So here's a picture of one of these camps, and I think this is a picture of before you save it. The salt-covered ruins of a town afflicted by an ancient curse. Looks like it's showing it to you on the map. And then finally, after you've completed it, it turns into a town with a waypoint with vendors. Makes sense. The only thing that has me a little concerned here is the most popular open world feature was a camp. And a camp is a friendly outpost with NPCs and a waypoint location. So the most popular thing was town. Was it town? Town is lava. We don't want to be in town. I don't want to be in town. I want to be killing stuff. The whole idea of going in, it's hostile, saving it, and maybe that's what they mean by it. That's very cool. But the second it turns into a town, I want to get out of there. I want to repair my gear. I want to salvage my stuff or whatever the functionality is, and I want to get out of there. So I hope it was a cool feature in the sense of rescuing the town and playing through the game, because I really hope that people's favorite feature wasn't sitting in town and talking to the NPCs, which I'm guessing is not what they meant. And one final note on mounts down here, which makes me have a couple of questions, but that's okay, I'm sure they'll be answered. So mounts are another thing that they could obtain during the playthrough. They liked how they interacted with the open worlds, and they let you get to your objectives without trivializing combat or travel. Itemization for mounts opens up a new axis of progression. Does that mean that the mount is going to help us fight in the open world? Is it just cosmetic only? I'm really wondering about this. They said there's more work to be done. Navigation and tuning, it's too easy to get stuck on collision. I would be very happy if they would fix that. And it's too easy to get dismounted by a random enemy projectile. So it looks like you get dismounted if you get hit. Can you fight on your mount when you get dismounted? Does your mount fight with you? Is that what they mean by progression, or is it just like a trophy thing that they're talking about? I'm not sure. I'm sure we'll figure it out more, but I've got some more questions on mounts from reading this. Now let's talk about multiplayer. I really like this first sentence. Fine-tuning the right approach to multiplayer in Diablo 4 has been challenging. I would be much more skeptical with anything, Diablo 4, anything in the world, if everybody comes out here and says that everything has been easy and everything is going great. I like that they came right out and said that this has been a challenging aspect for us, and I would love to hear, what their difficulties are and what they're thinking through. That way we can leave feedback if we have any ideas to try to help them. They want to incorporate elements from the shared world games without the game ever feeling like it's veering into MMO territory. To be clear, this is a philosophy rather than a tech limitation. We find that the game stops feeling like Diablo, and the world feels less dangerous when you see other players too often or in too high of numbers. I agree, that sounds more like WoW than Diablo. So I think here's an example of a town with some other people in it, but there's not 10,000 people like you would see in Ironforge or something. Breaking down the experiences from the playtest with some examples. Dungeons and key story moments are always private. It's just the player and their party. Once story moments are complete and towns turn into social hubs, you'll run into a few people in town. While on the road, you'll sometimes run into a player here and there. And then finally, if you went to a location where a world event was happening, you would see a larger number of players trying to defend against an attack or fighting the world boss. It's worth calling out that While some coordination is helpful during these events, you are never forced to join a party, so solo players will be happy about that. You can walk in and help complete the event and just get your reward. And that seamless approach to multiplayer is working well, and look forward to sharing more about this approach with you. In our tests so far, the world feels alive and dynamic without compromising the feel of Diablo. And for players that want to party up against the minions of hell, we have new tools available to find a group, whether by activity or proximity in the game world. How many of you feel that you would be okay playing teams in Diablo 3, but you have trouble finding friends? You have trouble finding like-minded people with you or that at the same level as you, and it's just very hard for you to connect with people and team up in the game. Well, they are going to have new tools available to find a group, and I think about 6 months ago, when I made a top 10 requests for Diablo 4, my number one request was to have improved clans, but the improved clans and community was essentially this idea is have a better way for people to connect with each other and enjoy Diablo 4 together. This, out of the entire blog post, to me, is by far the best news, and I can't wait to see what they've come up with so we can find friends to play with. Now on to items and progression. This is something that's very important to me. So they said that a lot of their players would feel the game lingering in their mind, thinking about the items that could possibly drop for their build and talents they would finally unlock to get the key interactions. And they did have an item update earlier, and they're going to have a beefier update later on in the year. I can't wait for that. So there's two screenshots. There's yellows and blues and legendaries. Let's quickly look at the yellows and blues. So one thing that I notice here right away is this is a rare amulet. This is a rare amulet. This has 3 things. This has 4 things. So if yellows are going to be one of the best items in the game, potentially if they get all the right stats, you're going to need to learn things like how many stats can a rare item roll, for example. Another thing you're going to have to learn is what do all of these things exactly mean? What exactly is a crushing blow? What exactly does damage while healthy mean? What does 2% hit effect chance mean? Okay. Another thing is we're going to have to learn what the powers do, exactly what they do. Do we stack angelic power or ancestral or demonic? And does it change from build to build to build? Do you want to split 50-50? And is it possible, for example, for critical strike damage, does it always require demonic power, or can you get critical strike damage that requires angelic power? How many different layers of RNG are there for these yellow amulets? Where do you farm them? Is it worth farming them? So what I'm seeing here more than I saw in the previous blog post, just looking at these 2 amulets, for example, is there may be a deeper knowledge required at the end game to really, really maximize your character. And you're going to have to understand how a lot of things interact with each other in order to get the most out of this game, which I think is good. Hopefully for people that are just want to enjoy the game casually, you know, this one has 854 attack and this one has 1000 attack, and you can go that route and you can just go with the one, you know, make simple choices essentially. But I'm hoping in the end game it will require a good amount of knowledge, which of course I hope to share with you guys and make tons of guides on to show you guys exactly how to build your characters. Okay, so let's look at the legendaries. Legendary boots, so you can see they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 4 stats and then a legendary. 4 and then a legendary, 4 and a legendary, so it looks like that's kind of the standard thing. This one could technically, maybe you could say has 5 because it has a socket. So that's interesting. So that weapon has 5. This does not have 5. Let's just read let's read the legendary affixes. Teleport forms a rift in your path that increases your critical strike chance by 39%. 40% crit hit chance? That's a lot, isn't it? If you could teleport once every 5 seconds, that'd be 40% chance to crit. Looking at Executioner's Gauntlets, skills that cost Fury will consume all remaining Fury and grant a 3.8% increased damage bonus for every extra point of Fury consumed. So maybe we make a class that builds up a huge Fury pool, if that's possible. We build up our Fury to full, and then we dump it, and bam, you get that huge multiplier. Let's say you have 100 extra Fury, it's going to give you a 380% multiplier. So it looks like a lot of these legendaries so far are going to make you a lot more powerful. Ire. Basic skills deal 20% less damage, but generate 60% more Fury. Well, maybe this could be a support barb weapon, where we do less damage, but who cares, but we generate more Fury to do, I don't know, support barb things, for example. Runeworker's Conduit with bludgeoning. I don't know what bludgeoning means. It's another thing we're going to have to learn about. Critical strikes from storm skills form an aura of lightning around you that shock nearby enemies for 50% of the damage dealt. So if you have this really powerful storm skill and you hit for 1,000, then it makes this aura of lightning around you. You can shock everything for half the damage. Sounds pretty awesome. Chill Grip. When your minor destruction spells crit, your next major destruction spell costs no mana and has a 100% chance to crit. So if we can get a minor destruction spell that has a high chance to crit, a major destruction spell, which by the way, I don't even know what that is, but whatever it is, sounds devastating, is free and is guaranteed to crit. Maybe we can do some shenanigans where we don't stack any critical strike, just enough to get this minor destruction spell out with a crit, and we go all crit hit damage to have this major crit hit damage bonus for this 100% chance to crit. I don't know, man. It's pretty crazy. Storm skills increase earth skill damage by 17, and earth skills increase the crit chance of storm skills by 16. So storm helps earth and earth helps storm. So what I'm seeing here is these legendaries are going to be powerful and they are going to matter, and it's going to be very interesting to see how we can mix and match them to create these super powerful builds in Diablo 4. And finally, for their final thoughts, they thought that Diablo 4 was very fun to play, and the classes are going down a promising path, and they're taking cues from what makes the Barbarian's arsenal system or the Druid's shape-shifting feel special, and how they could apply similar innovations to other classes. It put the tech through its paces. Everyone at home has different setups, so they're getting to see how the game performs on a bunch of different systems. They're not even at an alpha stage yet, which is something that I was saying. A lot of people were asking me after BlizzCon, so Rax, what do you think about Diablo 4? And I was like, guys, did we even see Diablo 4 alpha yet? Well, even 7 months later, they're saying that this is still not even an alpha. So they're going to do a tremendous amount of work still. So let's let it get farther along before we make any big decisions about how we like the game. And it was an important milestone for the team. They felt it corroborated that they had the key ingredients for a great Diablo 4. I agree. I hope you've enjoyed this update. I really have. We're welcome to share our thoughts on the platform of our choice, whether it's our own forums, the other sites, social media. They read and appreciate the comments. It's amazing to hear. I can tell that Blizzard is reading them. They've made a lot of comments and made a lot of changes that definitely indicate that they're listening. They're happy to see lots of great discussion after the last blog post, which seeded a bunch of conversations on their end. And the range of topics that we want to hear about, we're going to see about talent trees. So that's going to be in the next blog. Items continue to be a popular topic, and there's a lot of interest in the music. So that's what's coming up next. Thank you for taking the time to read this update, and we can't wait to share more of Sanctuary with you. Man, look at this zone. This looks terrifying. This is like a pit of hell. This is more hell back here. Looks like there's a town back there. Looks like there's a bunch of people that have been maimed, and there's a bunch of enemies over here, and there's symbols everywhere. Who knows what's going on over here with these candles. It's going to be a very, very, very dark game. overall, guys, let me know what you thought of this blog update. Again, my favorite thing that I heard about, it's cool to see the legendaries actually in practice. Can't wait to get in there and theory craft what are going to be the best builds. But the new tools available to find a group, I can't wait till everybody can find friends to play with and enjoy this in a team setting if that's what you like. I know there's a lot of solo players out there. I don't want to take anything away from you guys. And I don't want the game to be catered towards groups. I would love it if it's also very good for people to play solo. I know in Diablo 3 it really favors group play. So it's not that I don't want the solo players to be punished. I just want people to be able to find people to play with if they want to. Thank you so much for watching, guys. As always, leave your questions and comments down below. I read every comment on every single video. And let me know what you think about Diablo 4.